Sometimes a country doesn't just move forward. It hits the accelerator. And right at the turn of 2026, it really felt like India was hitting one of those moments, a time of massive widespread change. So what did that actually look like for people?
How about a brand new law that guarantees more work for families in rural areas?
Or maybe a record-shattering, history-making win in a huge sports final.
And what if I told you that one of the country's biggest financial sectors was about to be completely thrown open? Well, the answer to all of those questions is a big, resounding yes. But here's the thing, these weren't just random, isolated events. You gotta think of them more like pieces of a giant puzzle, all coming together to show a nation right in the middle of a huge transformation. So let's dive in and see how these pieces connect.
First up, let's follow the money. Because honestly, economic policy is often where you see the first real hints of where a country is headed.
And a huge signal came from the Reserve Bank of India. Its Monetary Policy Committee decided to make a small but really significant cut to the repo rate, bringing it down from 5.5% to 5.25%. Now it's wild how a tiny number like that can create such a big ripple effect, right? A lower repo rate basically means banks can borrow money for cheaper. And often, they pass those savings on to you and me with lower interest on loans for things like cars or homes, which really helps get the economy humming.
And speaking of getting things humming, Parliament made a massive move in the insurance world. The limit on foreign direct investment, or FDI, just shot up from 74% to a full 100%. That basically swings the doors wide open. The goal? To pull in a lot more foreign money and expertise. And for all of us, that could mean more competition and hopefully better and more innovative insurance options to choose from.
These economic changes weren't just happening at home either. India also threw its full support behind a new global group called Forge. This is all about securing the supply of critical minerals. The stuff that's in everything from our smartphones to electric cars. By getting involved, India is making it clear it wants to be a major player in building stronger global supply chains so we're not too reliant on any one single country for these vital resources. Of course, big economic shifts like these don't just happen on their own. They need new rules to support them, which brings us to our next section, the new laws and regulations that started to shape society. And let me tell you, Parliament was incredibly busy during its winter session, passing some seriously game-changing bills.
Okay, so one of the biggest moves was a complete overhaul of the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, MGNREG. The new bill brought in two really important changes. First, as you can see, the number of guaranteed workdays for rural households went up from 100 to 125, and on top of that, the way it's funded was made way simpler. A clear-cut 60-40 split between the central government and the states. No more complex calculations.
Then, there was a massive development in the energy sector. A new bill came in and completely replaced the old Atomic Energy Act, which had been around since 1962. The key takeaway here is huge. For the very first time, licensed private companies are now allowed to get into the nuclear energy business in India. The bill also completely updates the liability rules, basically opening up a sector that's been tightly controlled for decades to private investment and new ideas.
The education sector got a major shakeup, too. The old regulators, like the UGC and the AICTE, were basically dissolved and replaced by one single new body, the Viksit Bharat Shiksha Adhistan, or VBSA. The whole idea is to have one unified, streamlined authority looking after all of higher education in the country.
So while all of these big changes were happening inside the country, India was also busy redefining its place on the world stage.
Sometimes it's the simple actions that speak the loudest. Case in point, at the United Nations, India paid its 2026 contribution, over $35 million to the regular budget in full and on time. That might not sound like a huge deal, but that kind of reliability gets you on the UN's honor roll, which is a powerful way of signaling to the world that you are a committed and dependable partner in the international system.
India also stayed right at the heart of global health security through GOARN. That's the network run by the World Health Organization. Top-notch Indian institutions like the National Institute of Virology are a key part of this global team, all working to spot and respond to health emergencies fast, something we all know is more important than ever.
And wow, December of 2025 was just an absolute whirlwind of diplomacy.
I mean, look at this timeline. You had a high-profile visit from Russian President Vladimir Putin to strengthen strategic ties, the signing of a major economic partnership with Oman, and locking in a free trade agreement with New Zealand. It was just non-stop action, really expanding India's web of trade and strategic friendships across the globe.
But look, new laws and international treaties, they're only half the story, right? The real pulse of a nation, the real energy, that comes from the achievements and innovations of its people. And in February 2026, the world of Indian sports was just set on fire by the final of the 4th Women's Premier League. I'm telling you, this wasn't just another cricket match. It was an absolutely unforgettable showdown that went straight into the history books.
Get this, the Royal Challengers Bangalore women's team pulled off the highest successful chase in WPL final history. They hunted down a massive target of 204 runs, with Smriti Mandhana just lighting it up with an incredible 87. It was just a stunning display of pure skill and never-give-up attitude. And what was the reward for that incredible victory? A cool 6 crore rupees in prize money. That really says something about the growing professional and financial power of women's cricket in India. Absolutely fantastic to see.
Meanwhile, on the streets, a totally new kind of innovation popped up with Bharat Taxi. It's the country's first ever ride-hailing service that's a cooperative. So instead of being about a big private company, the focus here is on driver ownership. It even introduced really thoughtful features like Sarthi Didi, a service with women drivers specifically for women passengers.
And finally, a moment of just immense pride for education in India. Rubal Nagi, a teacher and social activist, won the prestigious Global Teacher Prize. Her incredible work uses art as a way to educate and empower underprivileged children. It's just a beautiful story of how one person's passion can make a real impact on the world stage.
So, when you step back and look at it all, the opening up of the economy, the sweeping new laws, the new global partnerships, and these incredible stories of individual achievement, you get a picture of a nation that isn't just moving forward, it feels like it's accelerating. And that leaves us with one really big question. What do all these changes, all happening at once, truly signal about the road ahead for India? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining me.